Let me ask you something real quick. Why is the internet acting like Porsha Williams just pulled off the biggest romantic heist of 2024? Because according to TashaK, yes, that TashaK with the unfiltered mouth and the unmatched chaos energy, Birdman wasn't just in love. He was tricked, played, outmaneuvered, emotionally ambushed, and apparently 5 steps away from dumping Porsha before she allegedly flipped the entire script and locked him into a wedding he did not see coming. And baby, the receipts? Messy. The timeline? Suspicious. The insiders? Screaming. Why did Birdman go from "I'm not sure about this" to "I do" in less than a week? Why did Porsha allegedly use a breakup scare, a fake emergency, and a perfectly timed emotional meltdown to get him to sign those wedding papers? And most importantly, why is TashaK claiming Birdman was trying to run, not walk, out of this relationship? Because if her sources are even halfway right, this wasn't a love story. This was a setup, a strategy, a full-blown marital ambush. Sit tight, because what you're about to hear will make that 2-day marriage look like the least shockingness video of the story. From the moment TashaK opened her mouth and said Birdman was trying to dump Porsha long before that wedding day, the internet had a meltdown that could power a whole city. Because suddenly, everything people thought they knew about that 2-day marriage collapsed like a cheap folding chair under pressure. This wasn't romance. This wasn't fate. According to TashaK, this was a situation held together with panic, manipulation, and to people pretending they were in a fairy tale when they were actually drowning in a messy agreement nobody fully understood. And the crazy this video is, the more you look back at the timeline, the more the whole thing feels less like a relationship and more like a PR strategy gone rogue. People keep asking, why would Birdman, a billionaire in the music game, a man with decades of power behind him, rush into a secret wedding with someone who, according to insiders, he was only lukewarm about at best? This is a man who has never moved quietly in his entire life, but suddenly he sneaks off to get married like he's in witness protection. And then 2 days later, he's ready to walk? That's not love. That's someone realizing they made the biggest mistake in the shortest amount of time. But if you believe what TashaK is saying, then Birdman never even wanted to be there in the first place. He didn't trip into love. He tripped into a trap. A trap that was apparently so clean, so perfectly executed, that even people around him were stunned he didn't see it coming. Tasha claims that Birdman was already distancing himself from Porsha weeks before the wedding. The communication was off. The energy was low. The man was allegedly trying to fade into the background like bad CGI, but just when he was ready to call it quits, suddenly, out of nowhere, Porsha hit him with an emotional storyline so dramatic it could have been pulled straight from a reality TV reunion, according to insiders. Porsha allegedly told Birdman she was dealing with a personal crisis so intense that she needed him by her side. Some say she hinted she was being harassed by an ex. Some say she hinted her safety was at risk. Some go even further and say she suggested someone in Birdman's circle had threatened her. The stories vary, but the pattern is the same. It created panic. It created urgency. It created a moment where Birdman couldn't back away without looking cold, heartless, or guilty. It flipped the situation completely. 1 minute he was distancing himself, and the next minute he was playing protective fiancé because suddenly the breakup wasn't a breakup anymore. It was him abandoning her in her time of emotional distress, and that's where the emotional manipulation angle comes in. Because once you trigger a man's guilt, you own the moment. You own the narrative. You own his next decision. And according to TashaK, Porsha used that moment flawlessly. She allegedly cried, panicked, disappeared for hours at a time, and then popped back up with a dramatic speech about how life was short and nothing was promised. And in that emotional roller coaster, in that chaos, in that whirlwind of fear and pressure and confusion, she allegedly pushed the idea of marriage. Not next year, not next month, right now, before things got worse, before someone got hurt, before the situation spiraled out of control. Marriage became the band-aid. Marriage became the solution. Marriage became the lock on a door Birdman was trying to walk out of. Now here's where it gets even wilder. There were already rumors in Birdman's circle that he was being watched financially, that some assets were being reviewed, that some business moves were looking suspicious to the wrong people. None of this was public, but insiders claimed that some of his accountants were sending warnings. And somehow, magically, right around that same time, Porsha reappears telling him marriage would protect him. That marriage would cover him. That marriage would stabilize everything. And if that sounds like the most convenient timing in the world, congratulations. You're paying attention, according to one insider who spoke to TashaK supposedly off-record. Porsha allegedly said something along the lines of, "If anything happens to you, I'm the only person who's going to ride for you," which sounds sweet until you realize the very next sentence was allegedly about locking down legal rights, emotional security, and public appearances. Suddenly, the wedding wasn't romantic. It was functional. It wasn't a celebration. It was a transaction. And the more the insider talked, the more it sounded like Porsha had turned the breakup into a crisis, the crisis into urgency, and the urgency into a wedding that looked spontaneous but was actually built on fear and pressure. But that's not even the whole story. Because during all this chaos, Birdman's team was apparently telling him to slow down. Some say they tried to convince him to take a break. Others say they suggested a mental reset. But a few people claim they straight up told him to run the other direction. They saw the pattern. They saw the red flags. And they saw the way the emotional narrative was building around him. But Birdman, being in a vulnerable moment, didn't listen. He was overwhelmed. He was confused. And when a woman with a sharp mind and a sharper plan hits you with back-to-back emotional bombs, your logic shuts down. What makes the story even more insane is that the wedding happened so fast, even close friends didn't know. Some didn't find out until 2 days later, when they heard Birdman was already filing for divorce. Imagine waking up to the news your friend got married at midnight on a Thursday and filed for divorce on Saturday morning. That's not a couple. That's two people stuck in a storyline they both regretted instantly. And the fact that the divorce filing used the phrase irretrievably broken after only 48 hours tells you everything you need to know. No one uses that phrase over a misunderstanding. That phrase is used when two people realize they shouldn't have even shared a Lyft ride together, let alone a wedding ceremony. But here's the twist that ties it all together. According to TashaK, Birdman allegedly told someone close to him, "I didn't marry her because I wanted to. I married her because she convinced me that if I didn't, something bad would happen." That one sentence flips the entire story upside down. Because it means the wedding wasn't built on love. It was built on fear. It wasn't based on connection. It was based on panic. It wasn't a mutual decision. It was a pressured move. And when you put all those pieces together, when you line up the timing, the emotional crisis, the secrecy, the speed, the panic, the guilt, the rumors, the insiders, the accountants, the advisors, everything lines up to perfectly. Then the moment the wedding was over, he felt suffocated. Because once the cameras were gone, once the vows were exchanged, once the papers were signed, once the adrenaline faded, reality walked in the door like an unwanted guest. According to people in his circle, Birdman woke up the next morning looking like a man who accidentally bought a house during a blackout. The shock was immediate, the regret was instant, and the silence between them, even in those first few hours, was so loud you could have recorded it and sold it as a soundtrack. Insiders claim he didn't even smile the day after the wedding. There was no honeymoon energy, no affection, no celebratory mood. He reportedly told one of his assistants, "I don't know what I just did." That's not something a newly married man says. That's something a man says after he realizes he's been maneuvered into a decision he didn't fully agree to. And according to TashaK, his confusion slowly turned to anger because he realized the situation wasn't spontaneous romance. It was strategic timing executed so perfectly he didn't see it until it was too late. And that's exactly when the 2-day collapse happened. Because as soon as Birdman tried to regain control of the situation, Porsha allegedly hit him with the script flip. The same emotional pressure that pushed him into the marriage suddenly wasn't working the same way. Before the wedding, it was "I need you. I'm scared. We're in this together." After the wedding, it was allegedly "We made a commitment. You can't back out. This is what you promised," according to sources. Birdman felt like he had entered a contract instead of a relationship. And every time he tried to voice how he felt, it allegedly turned into another emotional explosion. People who spent time around them in those 2 days say the energy was chaotic. No stability, no warmth, no connection. Just accusations, confusion, and long hours of silence broken by intense arguments. One source claimed, "It didn't feel like newlyweds. It felt like two people trapped in a room trying to renegotiate a deal that didn't make sense." And the scariest this video? Birdman allegedly realized that the crisis that pushed him into the marriage suddenly wasn't being mentioned anymore. The same storyline that made everything feel urgent vanished the moment the papers were signed. That's when Birdman started asking questions. Questions like, who was threatening you? What danger? What happened? Who was involved? And according to the source, the answers he got were vague, inconsistent, or conveniently forgettable. That's when everything snapped for him, because he realized he wasn't protecting someone in danger. He was reacting to a perfectly timed emotional setup. And when a man realizes he's been emotionally manipulated, his entire attitude shifts. Fear turns into resentment. Confusion turns into clarity, and panic turns into action. And that action was the divorce filing. The fastest, most impulsive, least romantic move imaginable. He didn't just end the marriage. He ended it with legal force, with no hesitation, with a declaration that the relationship was broken beyond repair. And the fact that this happened within 48 hours is what made the internet suspicious. Because people don't go from wedding vows to legal filings that fast unless something far deeper was happening behind the scenes. But here's where TashaK's narrative gets even darker. According to her, Birdman didn't just wake up with regrets. He woke up with new information. She claimed someone from Porsha's own circle told him that she had been planning the wedding push for weeks. That the emotional crisis wasn't entirely organic. That the timing wasn't a coincidence. That she had allegedly said things like, "If I don't secure this now, I'm going to lose everything." People close to her claim she felt she was losing relevance, losing leverage, losing momentum. And a public marriage to a billionaire would reset her entire image and restore her status. And when Birdman allegedly heard that, everything crystallized. The manipulation, the timing, the pressure, the secrecy, the crisis, the urgency, the wedding, the aftermath, it all suddenly made sense. He didn't feel like a husband. He felt like a target. And once that realization hit him, the divorce was inevitable, but then something even more bizarre happened. The divorce filing was withdrawn, completely reversed, out of nowhere. And that's the moment everything becomes suspicious again. Because filing for divorce that fast makes sense if you're panicking, but withdrawing it afterward? That's not panic. That's negotiation. That's influence. That's someone stepping in, placing pressure, offering deals, reminding him of consequences. People close to Birdman claim that he was convinced by advisors, but others believe there was something else at play, either financial, legal, or reputational. Some insiders say Birdman was warned that a public divorce after 2 days would make him look unstable, reckless, or irresponsible. Others claim Porsha allegedly threatened to go public with details that would embarrass him. And still others believe the withdrawal was simply a way to buy time to figure out how to exit quietly without causing a media disaster. Whatever the truth is, the withdrawal didn't bring peace. It brought more chaos, because once the public saw the divorce reversal, all the conspiracy theories surfaced. People were saying Porsha used the wedding to lock down assets. Others claimed she manipulated him emotionally to gain legal protection. Some online users went as far as to say she used old-school reality TV tactics: build drama, get sympathy, secure the storyline, monetize the chaos. And the more people talked, the more the narrative shifted. What was once a mystery became a scandal, and the scandal became a spectacle, and right in the center of that spectacle was TashaK fueling the fire with claims, inside information, and dramatic storytelling that made everything 10 times worse. She wasn't just reporting, she was narrating a movie. Every detail she dropped made Birdman look trapped and Porsha look calculated. Every statement sounded like a plot twist, and every insider she referenced seemed to add more suspicion rather than clarity. People began rewatching old interviews, old social media clips, old comments, trying to find signs that this marriage wasn't built on love but on leverage. And they found plenty. Birdman's lack of interest, Porsha's sudden shift in tone, the timing of her posts, the vague captions, the dramatic quotes. Everything started aligning with the idea that this was a strategic move wrapped in emotional theatrics. And now, with all eyes on them, the question no one can ignore is how much of this story is true. How much of this was manipulation? How much was panic? How much was strategy? How much was chaos? Because if you follow TashaK's version, if you connect every rumor, every insider, every suspicious detail, and the moment that videos started making rounds, everything shifted. Suddenly, the internet wasn't looking at Porsha like a glamorous newlywed icon, they were looking at her like a magician who performed one trick to many. And you could almost hear TashaK laughing behind the scenes because she knew the world had finally caught on. She knew people were finally connecting the dots that she had been trying to glue together from day one. And trust me, once you lose the internet's trust, once people start whispering that you finessed your way into a billionaire marriage, there is no PR campaign strong enough, no glam team big enough, no reality show dramatic enough to clean that image. Not now, not after this. Not when every single day new leaks are dropping like someone turned on a faucet of Birdman's regrets. Because right when people thought the drama hit its peak, another recording came out, reportedly from inside Birdman's own camp, somebody close to his label. Somebody who had been around him long before Porsha even knew what jet she'd be taking next. And in that recording, you hear a man saying, he said she moved too fast. He said it felt like she was always presenting something. Now, that's interesting. That's not a word you use for a woman who's in love. That's the word you use for somebody on a mission. Someone with an objective. Someone performing. And you could practically hear Porsha's fans scrambling, trying to do damage control, trying to spin every leak as jealousy or hate. But the leaks kept coming faster and louder. Someone from Birdman's side said that he felt backed into a corner emotionally. Someone else said he was confused with how quickly paperwork, planning, and public appearances started stacking up, and one person even claimed Birdman told them, "I felt like I woke up married and didn't even choose it." Imagine that. Waking up and feeling like your own wedding wasn't even your decision. But here's the part that made TashaK scream. "I told you." One insider said Birdman felt like Porsha weaponized vulnerability, that she acted overwhelmed, emotional, fragile, every time he tried to slow things down. And that every time he pulled away, she found a new reason to pull him back in. And that kind of emotional pressure is dangerous because you start doubting your own boundaries. You start questioning your own instinct. And by the time you snap out of it, it's already too late. The ink is dry, the ring is on, the headlines are published, and you're locked in. And that's exactly when the internet turned. Because all these small pieces started lining up, and suddenly people weren't seeing Porsha as the bride, they were seeing her as the architect, the strategist, the one who came prepared, the one who knew what she wanted and wouldn't stop until she got it. And nobody understood the pattern better than TashaK, because she had been calling it out from the beginning. She knew the personality type. She knew the tactics. She knew where the story was going long before anyone else believed it could go there. And just when the public thought they had heard every twist possible. Just when they thought the storyline couldn't get any more bizarre, another detail slid into the conversation. A detail about conversations Porsha allegedly had before the wedding with certain people from her previous relationship circles. And that's what really made Birdman's camp panic. Because those conversations, if true, proved pre-planning. They proved a mindset. They proved that the marriage wasn't a fairy tale, it was a strategy, according to one source. Porsha was allegedly telling people she was done dating men who couldn't provide security. And while that doesn't sound criminal, it gets more suspicious when you hear the second half that she allegedly said she needed a man whose lifestyle matched the image she was building. The image she was building. Not the life she was living. Not the relationship she wanted. The image. And suddenly, everything started feeling less like romance and more like branding, and you can bet Birdman's inner circle went wild. Because from their angle, they were watching him get emotionally cornered, persuaded, pulled, pushed, and packaged into something that didn't even look like his life anymore. And that's why the word dump started trending. That's why TashaK didn't bother hiding her satisfaction. She kept saying, "You don't listen when a woman knows another woman," and she wasn't lying. She knew exactly what she was pointing out. She knew exactly what she saw in Porsha's moves. And she wasn't about to let anyone gaslight her into silence. But the craziest, this video? Even after the leaks, even after the whispers, even after the recordings, Porsha wasn't backing down. In fact, she played it calm. She played it quiet. She played it unbothered. And that silence scared people even more. Because that kind of silence isn't peace, that's calculation. That's someone waiting for the next move. Someone preparing the next image switch. Someone waiting to see how the public reacts before deciding what mask to wear next. And you could feel the tension rising. Especially when Birdman's relatives started posting cryptic messages about loyalty and being blind in love. Nothing direct. Nothing with names, but the timing was too perfect to ignore. And once those posts dropped, the blogs took that as a green light. Suddenly, every platform was digging into Porsha's past, comparing patterns, lining up timelines, matching behavior. And when they put it all together, the visual was ugly, but the moment that truly cracked the entire narrative open was when someone who worked on Porsha's reality show days leaked that she had a history of expedited relationships, that she always moved fast, that she always pushed the storyline, that she always looked for the angle. And when you put that next to Birdman, one of the richest, most influential men she ever dated, it got people thinking, was this marriage a love story or a long-term mission finally completed? And that's what TashaK grabbed onto. Not the marriage itself, not the rumors, but the pattern. She said it wasn't about Birdman being rich. It was about Porsha needing control over her life's narrative, needing a storyline where she could finally be the woman who came out on top. The woman who secured the biggest bag. The woman who finally outran her past. And there's nothing wrong with wanting stability, but when stability turns into strategy, that's when people start to feel manipulated. And according to the insiders, Birdman felt that shift immediately after the wedding. Things that started as sweet emotional gestures suddenly felt like obligations. Small disagreements turned into full-scale arguments about respect, loyalty, and commitment, arguments that didn't make sense unless someone was fighting for a role, not a relationship. And that's why Birdman's frustration kept building. He wasn't angry because Porsha was emotional. He was angry because her emotions felt rehearsed, and the moment he tried pulling away, the moment he tried regaining control, everything blew up. That's when the fight supposedly happened, the fight that led to the leak that started this entire chaos. Someone in the house recorded it. Someone leaked it. Someone wanted the world to know that this wasn't a fairy tale. And once that recording hit TashaK's desk, the clock started ticking because when the world heard Birdman's voice, heard the tension, heard the exhaustion, heard the regret, people realized this wasn't entertainment. This was a man trying to escape a situation he didn't know how he ended up in. And Porsha, the way she responded in that recording told the whole story. Not sadness, not heartbreak, Not confusion, control, calculation, pressure. And that's why the internet exploded. That's why TashaK doubled down. That's why Birdman's camp started preparing statements. That's why the marriage is now being looked at like a contract signed under emotional fire. Because if even half of these insiders are telling the truth, this wasn't love. This was a trap wrapped in lace. And somewhere behind the scenes, you can almost feel Birdman whispering the same question everyone else is asking now. What did I get myself into? And now you tell me. After everything we just exposed, after every leak, every insider whisper, every late night recording, do you still think this was some fairy tale wedding wrapped in gold? Or was it a strategic masterpiece built brick by someone who knew exactly what she wanted and exactly how to get it? Because if Birdman really did feel trapped, if he really did try to pull away, if he really did see the signs a little too late, then trust me, this story is only getting started. And you already know TashaK isn't going to stay quiet. She's about to drop this video. This video if she has two. And the moment she does, you know I'll be right here breaking it down piece by piece so you don't miss a single second of this chaos. So before you go, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Porsha played the game, or did the game play her? Do you think Birdman is planning his exit or planning his revenge? Because one thing's for sure, this tea is nowhere near finished and the next cup is already boiling. Stay locked in. Stay locked in.